Hello, welcome back to Ideas with Diana. In today's show, I would like to talk about um, the idea of creative expression in terms of the homebrew operating system. And well, the homebrew goes back to an old computer concept, namely about when people in computers first start thinking about making computers for everybody to use, which today becomes tablets, mobile devices, PCs, laptops, um, because it's one part of history that sometimes is forgotten is that the homebrew revolution, even in basically what people see in microbreweries with beer, is part of the creative process and creative expression process. Because yes, everyone can go out and get beer at basically go to the store and buy big market brands of beer. But there are also other people who want to make a special distinct beer. And the way it starts is it starts with homebrew ideas, microbreweries. And the reason why is because with with the homebrew idea, sometimes for a company to do a new product or sample a new idea, it's a lot of work because basically they have everything set up to do massive quantities and so just to change to do a new sample product, um, it means basically changing how they make the main product. So some companies are able to do it by doing skunk works, and that's what a lot of tech companies do and aerospace companies do as well. Um, other times, basically, most homebrew people are individuals who work in a field and basically start this out as a hobby. And the homebrew idea of the first computers was basically to start out as a hobby. Well, how could we make a computer that everyone could use and basically everyone could just get ready to use and stuff and just um, apply it and get it going. Now the thing is, the idea about creative expression with the homebrew operating system. Where did this come from? Well, for me, where it came from is I use different computers, Linux, Windows, Mac, and the biggest frustration I have with a Windows computer is I have a Windows computer with 64-bit processor, quad core, 8 gigabytes of memory, and it freezes. Um, and A computer like that should not freeze. Computers, it runs 1,000 times faster than my old Osborne one, which never froze. And also, it has trouble keeping up with my typing and creating. That's why sometimes a lot of people have to use a notebook or something else because the computer can't keep up with the drawing, typing, or creating. Um, so my idea is this. Um, I had got to a point of frustration, and I like Linux, but I realized that I was thinking, well, is there another way to think of an operating system that can run on a computer that's lean, that won't freeze, and also that's easier to maintain and still keeps the computer going um, without all the different types of side effects that we have basically. So what I did is I thought I was up at 2 a.m. one night because that's normally when I get up and create. And I thought, well, okay, well, let's see what language could we start with. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to use a certain computer as a test base to do the assembly language. And well, since the Linux computer that I have doesn't freeze as much as the Windows, I thought, okay, well, what type of assembly language could I use? And I looked for something that was universal because, again, the principle I liked about Adam Osborne was that he talked about plain vanilla coding. And what was meant by that is that basically you wrote code that ran on multiple machines and multiple devices. The code did a purpose, and it sort of utilized the advantage of the machine, but also it utilized it in such a way that it could be transferable to another machine. So when I thought about this, I thought, well, okay, I could do this in C, I could do this in assembly. I thought, well, no, well, let's see how far I could go doing assembly. And when I thought about what language to use in assembly, I thought, well, maybe I should use the Intel architecture, or maybe the MIPS architecture. Well, based on current continuing education courses that I've had in computer architecture, security, and communications, I thought the MIPS architecture was a good way to go. And so the first thing what I did was I thought, well, okay, well, now this is where it helps to have a cross-cultural approach, or multidisciplinary approach, because I originally I was in pre-med, worked in medical research, and also later also worked in also worked as a computer scientist as well, as a military contractor, and also as with different computer groups that did work with the military, as SES.org. The thing is, when I was thinking about the language, though, I was thinking about, well, okay, now to make a backbone. The reason why I use the word backbone is because I'm thinking embryologically. Because when you actually consider how life is created biologically, it's, there's always a question which comes first, the chicken or the egg, and even those who don't study pre-med know that the egg come first, which is a blastocyst, which develops in chicken. But the first thing that develops is when the chicken starts to develop is basically the spinal cord, because that actually coordinates, it gives structure to the embryo as it's growing. So the thing is, whenever I develop software, I tend to think sort of as a biological basis, as how do I develop the backbone or neurological structure and infrastructure to allow to go and grow. And in the computer world, growing means scalability, which means you can, like the embryo starts out one size and then comes out basically a full formed being when it's born. So with the operating system, I thought of first, let's start with something simple. So start with something simple. I was thinking about an operating system that I used in the past, and the operating system I used in the past was basically a breakthrough concept back then, because it used that concept of layers, basically central command processor, basic disk operating system, basic input-output system, which many know as CPM, and so what I did, the only thing I did basically was this time is I added a file manager for RAM disk, and I thought, okay, well, let's see how far I could go in about maybe 2 hours of hand coding assembly wise. So I started, and the thing is, when I studied computer science, many computer science students by the time in the third year could begin to write their own operating system. In the fourth year, they were expected to be able to write their own rapid application development system, which is symbol lister, assembler, compiler, and runtime manager. And today I feel it's still the same, and I still think it's a good project. So what I did is I started writing the code for my version of CPM, just to get an idea as to how much this is going to entail. And Well, what was it? Just it took about 2 hours when I'm writing, and about a little over 200 lines of assembly code later with minimal comments. I was able to come out with a basic skeleton that worked on the console base. Basically, it worked. It wasn't a graphic user interface, but it worked on the console base. And the RAM disk was about basically another 100 lines of code. The thing is, what the thing is the idea of development, because when you get in a flow, it's very easy to develop an idea. It's like the same thing like people who play music in different bands. Sometimes music theorists will think about things as chord structure. What chords are they using? Are they using E5? Are they using E1? Are they using D5, B flat 5, which is, but to the musicians, all of them or many of them basically are professionally trained and have knowledge of music theory and instruments, and also can play classical music brilliantly, to demonstrate that they are fully functioning music. However, but the thing is, when they create a song, it's the feeling, it's the moment, it's what they're feeling when they create the song. Then later when the song is further developed, then basically you start to see like, well, okay, this song starts so with an E1 and E1 into structure, and then responding as D5, and it goes back to an E1, and responding again is B flat 5, and then E5, E5, D5, E1. But they don't think about that way when they compose it. But by the time they go through and share ideas and stuff, it may come out that way. But it's a case where flowing versus mechanical. And so like this example about the Homebrew operating system is that it's a flowing process. It wasn't a mechanical process. I started with an idea making it with some sort of structure. But the idea is that it's based upon a thought of using the computer to do something that and to try to solve a problem that I feel is solvable, because a computer operating system should not freeze, never, 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 never. So the thing is, creative expression, whether you're using a computer, whether you're using music, exists anywhere. Another form of creative expression is what I read different magazines. Art in America this month had a good editorial regarding one famous artist who lived during the McCarthy period, and basically some of the things how she dealt with having to deal with the political climate, as well as how that affected her creativity and her art. And the point was basically it came out to a word called Urve, works of a painter, composer, author regarded collectively. And what the artist did was that rather than make art that just specifically addressed a certain moment, it was a collective vision. It was a vision that sort of was basically the art was one piece supported another, and it sort of formed a vision in pieces and then unified. And the thing is, it also showed that the person that the artist was responding, and also thinking about what the current situation is. In another ways is also there's also was an article in Art in America magazine regarding a new book about a fiction that's written by poets of two characters from the art world, and how they feel about the utopian vision, and what they feel, what they do to respond to it. In essence, what happens if someone rejects the utopian vision and feels that they're powerless to do anything? And that's an interesting question to see how two people would solve that. I need to read more into on the article to sort of see what's being said. But I like the concept and the question because it is mind expanding and it does make one think. In other magazines, like in Creative Executive, there was an interesting thing where the chairman board is talking about the moonshot. What that is well, based on China having a growing middle class, they're going to want to travel more. So how's a way to rethink manufacturing other than the traditional way to accommodate a population the size of China that may be traveling. And this is an example where of creative expression where the current solution, the work alone is just near the end, and it's time to think of something new. And it's and the thing is, it's a thing where basically it's not panic mode. It's calm mode. It can be done, and so. With creative expression and the homebrew, artists do it all the time when they do paintings and other creative music. It's a homebrew at first because sometimes it's not necessary that you have a contract, you have a commission, you have an idea. You write it down in your notebook, you write it down in your sketch pad. Artists, computer people, musicians. All carry a sketch pad because even in the movie Jobs, it showed Steve Jobs at a young age carrying a sketch pad too, because sometimes you'd be surprised it's easier to write an idea down on a sketch pad than it is to type it in a tablet. The other thing about creative expression though is you have to make sure that you get out and meet with people and get out more often than what you think, because online is good, but too much online, like anything else, it isn't. And the other thing about too much online, it also can lead to people being cyber stalked. That's why it's important to sort of be able to know who you're meeting and talk with. The best thing about being able to meet people socially, though, person to person, is that that connection is still very important to us, because we are, as people, you report a common cliche, we are social animals, and as social animals we need to meet with others and connect with others. Well, let me know what you think. I'm on Twitter at Diana1A, and the radio show is on WIPZ 101.5 FM. And talk with you next week.